Good morning. Hi, my name is Chris Kettell. I'm Chief Technologist with TRL Software, and I am joined by Robin North, who will be up here in my place shortly. Supplier Spotlight, TRL, Robin North Immense Simulations. Company Spotlight, TRL, and to start off with reading the room, there's fewer of us here today than there was yesterday, so possibly I think from the heavy drinking of last night there might be some slow comers that come in, but reading the room, it's great to see so many familiar and new faces here. TRL, who are we? TRL is a global centre for innovation in transport mobility, going all the way back from 1933 through to where we are today. We've done a lot since we were privatised in 1996. You will know us for Mover, you will know us for Scoot, you will have heard of us with our recent rollout of the new National Highways Pavement Asset Management System, right through to our work across road safety. And that's just the software part of the business. Our vision as TRL is being a world leader in creating the future of transport and mobility using evidence-based solutions and innovative thinking. Our expertise is deep. We have a collection of some of the most fabulous experts across a range of relevant sectors, from human factors through to infrastructure, ITS, software. You'll find us in cities and urban, new mobility, strategic and local roads, even in government policy and standards. And looking back at some of the things that we have done, from the early development of Scrim and Harris in the 1930s, the design implementation of pedestrian crossings, driving simulation, and a hand in NCAP, through to today. And so, like any good story, it should have a beginning and a middle and a future. And so what we have from our UTC, our work with RAIDs, the Research Accident In-Depth Studies with DFT, Helm UK, platooning of HGVs, right down to our work with the Smart Mobility Living Lab, part of TRL, our Serve City project. But what's in a name? And so there have been a lot of names over the years. Secretary of State for Defence, State for Transport, Secretary of State for Trade and Industry, Plessy Company, Plessy Controls, Ferranti, and it goes on, and we have TRL. And I was so pleased yesterday to see the mention of the Mark I Golf from 1974. If you were at the TRL user group for Scoot and UTC a few weeks ago, you'll know about my passion for the Golf. I love that car. It's a wonderful thing. And much like that first Golf back in 1974, the Mark I, today we have the Mark VIII, some 50 years later. With TRL and with Scoot, here we are 47 years later, and one of the keys to the success of Scoot lies in its continuity, and that continuity has been TRL as the design authority, the creator and originator for Scoot. It's the original reference point for adaptive traffic control, and Scoot has continued to evolve since its first development in 1977, and it gets better with every release. What marked a big change in the market for us was us getting our feet wet in bringing a UTC to market. We had not previously provided Scoot directly to customers. We had two signal suppliers that were our supply chain, to which part of the Scoot kernel, the brains, the clever piece was provided. Now, in developing Scoot 7 and moving forwards, that was coupled with TRL UTC. And TRL and Scoot 7 was our hello to the market. And so far, we've been well received. We're very focused on what our customers want. I have the most focused product owner to the point of I don't think they do anything else. If you ask for a particular feature or functionality or an understanding as to the where, the why, and the why for, he can show you where it's come from a customer request. So being very focused on what you, the user, want and need and to achieve, it's there. And so Scoot 7 was the hello. Scoot 8 is the now we're getting serious about things. And that's been based on listening to the problems and the challenges that we've seen historically, but have been limited in how much influence we can have on that, through to making things better and continuing with that development. And so from looking at the initial pain points around when you develop and set up a new system, from the initial validation and the ongoing revalidation, we've got that in the bag. Incident and anomaly detection, working with the Alan Turing Institute and bringing artificial intelligence into UTC. That's been a lovely focus for us. Enhanced traffic modelling, but without needing to have a transport model that sits behind it. This has been my baby for the last 2.5 years. And we're now at the point of being able to accurately forecast a 5, 10, 15 plus minute rolling time horizon on what your network state will look like, and comparing that against the incremental small changes that approach of Scoot, long-standing, very effective, actually achieves. Well, new optimizer availability and changing how you dynamically assign your regions, where you want common cycle times, all of those good things. That's where Scoop 8 gets better. Analytics. How do you measure and compare and contrast, and what does monitoring and evaluation mean? What's reproducible and what's comparable? Not only within something that TRL would produce, but from other suppliers. What does that baseline look like? So another focus is looking at the automatic traffic signals performance measures, measures of effectiveness that are meaningful and are based and grounded in good scientific method. And then finally, it isn't just the metal boxes that are on the roads. We have those softer things, the pedestrians, the cyclists, and other vulnerable road users. They get factored in to UTC and as a consideration. So Scoot 8 continues to be a work in development and to come soon. But it isn't just about the Scoot element to it. There is, of course, the front end, how it fits together, and it's more than just traffic control. So the right information at the right time, the right tools. A lot of local authorities don't have the pockets, the will, the incentive, or the choice of lifestyle to want to go down the route of UTMC and the challenges that that presents. So a strategy manager, by default, within your own UTC, enables you to do more from the get-go with external information without the need of that additional cost or complexity. From street, you have the right information, and automation, of course, where it matters. And so tying into strategy manager, automatic validation, and the constant and looking at the goodness of fit. But there's more. And this is where I expect cameras to appear. In working with the Alan Turing Institute, we've developed a model, a AI model, GTTG. And this uses a combination of mix of experts and some fairly new and novel techniques, which, when running through and comparing against some existing baseline data sets, the US are very good at providing these. The UK, there are less useful things, and so we needed to create our own from some of our own UTC deployments, and our ahead forecast minutes. So looking at what we have, all of the green compares the accuracy of what was measured and what was modeled against a cohort of state-of-the-art AI models, and we've done really quite well. So the green highlights what's been good, and looking at each of the sections that we have there, the TRL state-of-the-art model that we have, which is integral to UTC, gives you that rolling forecast and horizon. But one of the things that TRL doesn't do is, we're not a hardware manufacturer or a supplier, with one exception, the leg form. So if you're interested in pedestrian impact and understanding, we have the leg form, and that's about the only hardware that you would ever get from us. And so we look to work with the existing incumbent signals suppliers, equipment manufacturers. It's always been a gear grinding to palm back the rich data that you get from above ground detection to loop emulation. Well, we're making more use of that data. And one of the ways in which we test, we experiment, and that be meaningful is via the Smart Mobility Living Lab in London. Test, simulate, innovate. It's part of Testbed UK and is very, very successful. That enables us to do a variety of things on street in a meaningful way, supported by technology, with Cisco as one of our technology partners, and of course working with a large cohort of small to medium enterprises. Robin is one of those and is now here to tell you about what Robin and Immense has done and will be doing with us. Robin, over to you, please.
Good morning, Hinckley. Thank you, Chris. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you all this morning. Conscious that we're representing a community of small companies and innovators in this. So some of what I can share is very specific to us and our experience with TRL, Smart Mobility Living Lab, and others. And some of it's also more general about how to bring innovation into this sector and hopefully to deliver great outcomes over the coming years. What we do as a company is we simulate. We provide forecasts and scenarios about the network and the behaviours and how that performs in the future, so that you can test business as not usual. So when you're making a change, when you're transitioning, or when you've just temporarily closed a road or put traffic signals on. What we do with that is provide on-demand forecasts and impact assessments to help people make decisions with more assurance, more agility. And we think it's pretty useful. The barrier that we set out to go and address is that some of this tech, some of this capability has been around this sector and others for decades, but it's expensive and slow to deploy. And so often that quality of decision or alternatives testing is just not practical within the timelines of making a change or within the budgets that are available for it. So we've been able to bring a lot of that together to make it an end-to-end, easy-to-use process and to be able to embed it in day-to-day decision-making. We call it Simulation as a Service. We'll probably think of a better name at some point, but the idea really is having a digital replica of the transport system. We have that rolling out for England and Wales this summer. Embedding within that the ability to set up scenarios, to close lanes, to put in traffic signals, to change how your transport system performs, and then to be able to simulate that, so to run much faster than real time to simulate a day in the life of your transport system with your change. So you can test, do nothing, do something else, and do that really quickly. We have a set of products, and several of these will be relevant in ITMF and in other programs, where we look at fleet movements. This has been developed with Living Lab, with other partners around fleet movements, autonomous vehicles, but taxis, HGVs, site access movements, all sorts of things like that. Infrastructure operations around how day-to-day, if you make a change on the network, what might happen? Where do people reroute? How does that affect things? And then longer-term regional planning, so looking at longer-term permanent changes to the network. And we're really proud that that's been developed with the UK public sector and with a lot of the innovation programs that have been successfully running over the last years, through Innovate UK, through a lot of other partners and friends in the room. That's also led us to mature our offerings so that we are ISO certified, we're an AWS partner, all these things that mean that as a small player, we can provide capability into the sector. But that bridge between innovation coming through to commercial and scale up is something that's really challenging for us to do on our own, and it's something that I'm sure other people here would identify with, that we need to have the opportunities to work with new customers, with new partners. We've been able to develop products with public sector, which is quite unusual. And I wanted to show you just a little bit about what some of that looks like and try and make it a bit more real. So here's the UK. We're somewhere in the middle of that. And this is Street Manager output. So this is the register of all of the works that were permitted on those days. This can be massively enhanced as DTROs come through and other capabilities. So then we have a simulation network. This is an Oxford example where we can look at changes. So this is real. This is a closure. Any of you familiar with Oxford will know the Botley Road is currently closed, and that's to help Network Rail build a bridge or refurbish elements of the station. That has quite a long-running impact on how Oxford behaves and how the travellers behave around Oxford. And so there are different scenario tests around that, being able to set them up so that you can see the impacts and engage with the stakeholders really easily, and also test all of the other things that will be happening while that arterial isn't behaving the way it normally does. So this is an example of an interface, but we've a whole series of these to help different workflows, to help different users implement and test their scenarios. And so something we've been doing with partners over the last months is making it really easy to get this into day-to-day business and decision-making. So there's other layers of information, there's safety information in it, so historic incidents, hotspots, being able to look at active travel movements and things like that, and then being able to see where things happen on the network and whose roads are affected and which travellers and by how much. And so that's led into looking at customer experience metrics. So how can you quantify delays to different users from different locations at different times of day? How can you assess the amount of carbon that is being different to your baseline for one plan, a mitigation, an alternative, and so on, so that you can start to deliver infrastructure and operate it and manage it with lower impacts and that feedback loop around how to do things differently and better. In this particular case, quite a few of the impacts are actually on the strategic network. So there's a network rail project being delivered on a Oxfordshire road in Oxford City that is significantly impacting other bits of infrastructure. It really shows how a lot of the system is interconnected and needs to be brought together. Some of the tech that's in there is around reactive rerouting. So a lot of, well, actually, a quick show of hands. Who uses en route guidance in their vehicle and gets updates on how travel times? Yeah, it's probably about maybe a third, 40% people here, which is pretty typical, it seems. So you're the green people who've just had an early warning en route that your travel time's changing, and the purple folk, the rest of us who didn't put our hands up, are going to be running into the back of the queues and the traveller information that's on the street, maybe on a VMS to detour. And that has network-wide effects. It's techniques we've been developing and trialling with Transport for London and are now ready to roll out to other test cases across the country. So what we're looking to do is work with, hopefully many of you in the room, to trial and refine this so that it is capability that you can adopt and use day to day going forward. So please come and talk to us. I'll be around all day. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.